Would you like it now? I thought you might. All right, great. So, so you were itching to get back to work, and so when you're itching to get back to work at that point, do you want to listen to this?
Sure.
I feel disconnected.
Yeah, that's fine.
So when you're itching to get back to work, what was sort of the thought process of how you were going to do that?
For me, the thought process when I was looking to return to work was really an exploratory, like, what do I want to do? I had thought about possibly trying something in a nonprofit sector or something that it was really different than what I was doing before. But as I went through the process, more and more, it kept leading me back to something that was more similar than what I had done before. I think there's this loss of sense and value, and going to do something drastically different wasn't going to fill that for me personally. But then as I started looking at work I was more comfortable with, it kind of led me naturally back to aerospace, which is my background.
And tell us a little bit about what you do as a 787 program manager, and sort of whether you enjoy that kind of work.
So for me, very young in my career, I realized I loved working with the customers. So I started my career in Boeing in Seattle, and I got to be involved with a lot of failure analysis, which took me to a lot of airlines around the world. So traveling, meeting the customers, hearing the voice of the customer, bringing that back to my own organization, I really enjoyed. So my current role as a 787 program manager kind of allows me that same kind of interaction, this time with the major airframer. So I enjoy working with the customers, and also being involved in like all aspects of the program. So that's interesting for me. Instead of doing one thing, I like knowing what's going on in aftermarket, in production, and all the different facets of running a program. So I find that really interesting.
What about coming back? Does it feel different? Is there what's new about it? What's the same? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would think it's going to be really different. There isn't that much that's changed. One of the things that's was a little weird is technology, and like what ethically can you do with technology? Do you text during meetings? Do you take your personal cell phone? So that's something that's really changed. All the apps that are available, all the apps UTC has, those weren't around when I left. So there's certain things like that are very different. I think the general work, getting stuff done, how you run a program, dealing with the organization, the people, the network, that's all the same. So there's not that much that's really different. I think technology has changed a lot, and the speed at which you're expected to use technology. That's been one of the most challenging things for me, as I thought my computer skills were still pretty decent. And they're okay, but not at the speed they need to be to do this kind of job. So I just need to get faster with everything.
And how does that technology change sort of factor into what we call work-life balance? Sometimes we call it work balance, but in terms of having technology, does that enable you more now to work from home and that sort of thing?
Yeah, technology offers a great tool to work-life balance. I remember I was only back in the program 3-4 weeks, and I had a call with Japanese Airlines, and it was 9 o'clock at night, and I was able to do it not only from home, in my PJs, but on my smartphone, with the WebEx app. And it was just so convenient to be able to do that having your phone with you all the time and your headset, you can take calls wherever. So it makes it easier, but I will still say the work-life balance is still challenging for someone that's been out and is 100% mom, all in doing that role. It's hard to figure out what things are you willing to let go of, what things are you not willing to let go of, where's those priorities. It's definitely a challenge, and one of the things that you have to work through, and the only way you can do that is when you're in that moment of what your priorities are going to be.
Gotcha. Let's go back. You mentioned that you were teaching figure skating.
Yes.
Tell us about that. What is that something you did as a child, and how did you come to do that?
Yeah, so I was a figure skater as a child, and I taught through college and after college for a number of years, and then my daughter began skating. I had dreams my son would be a hockey player, and that didn't work out, but my daughter really enjoyed skating, and I just happened to be at the rink one day, and they were really short coaches, and I just said, oh, by the way, I used to teach if you ever need someone to fill in. And next thing I know, I'm teaching 6 days a week and choreographing programs and taking little ones to competitions. So I had thought about continuing down that career path, but then with the move, it was kind of a logical time to step back from that because it's all in the evenings and I didn't want to be away from my kids in the evenings. So while I was volunteering full time all day, then in the evenings I was away from them and my husband. So actually going back to work has allowed me more time in the evenings with them.
And how did you hear about the Re-Empower program, and how did that help you sort of re-enter in the workplace?
So I initially heard about the Re-Empower program from the website. I had been followed iRelaunch online for a while now, for about a year, and I saw that they had teamed up with UTC. When I moved to Connecticut, UTC was, of course, one of my companies that I was targeting because there's so many opportunities there. And so I heard about it online. I started following a little bit, and then I looked at some of the opportunities that were available with the first cohort. None of them really fit my background. So I actually started applying for jobs on my own that weren't the Re-Empower program, and then kind of found a job and said, would this fit? Kind of made my own path a little bit, but it worked out really nicely. I'm really glad that I did the Re-Empower program. I think it offered me the support that I needed. I don't think I knew that I needed it before. I thought I could just jump back in, but now looking back, it's an amazing program and it offers a ton of support as you're looking to relaunch your career.
Now, you mentioned cohort. Explain what that is for somebody who doesn't understand what that is.
So the way I view the term cohort is just a group of people that are going through the same thing at the same time you are. So in my situation, and I was in cohort 2 and there was 5 of us, we were actually really spread out geographically, so that made it challenging that we didn't get to spend a ton of time together. But at that moment in time, these were the only people that knew what it was like to return to work after a number of years. There was also 3 other candidates who had been off the same amount of time I'd been off. So we were kind of in the same boat as it's been a long time since we had been in the workforce, and we were returning to a situation that was very different than when we left.
Terrific. These are great responses, by the way. So when we're thinking about re-entering the workplace, and this is a new program, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what advice would you give others that are maybe in a similar situation or have just been off of work for a while and thinking about re-entering? What advice would you give them about this program or about just advice in general?
My advice to someone who's been off work and is looking to relaunch their career would be to not wait. So start doing baby steps in advance. So instead of saying, oh, I'm going to go back in 3 years or 2 years, well, don't sit idly during that time. Continue going to things where you can network, continue to use LinkedIn, continue to follow the job market, continue to do counseling sessions about where you think your career might be, because it's really hard to be completely away and then quickly think you're going to get back in. The more you can do in advance to kind of stay engaged is really important. There's a lot of local resources that you can tag up with and go to some of their events that help you meet other people who are also thinking they may want to relaunch in the future. And that there's one here locally in Hartford that offered me a lot of support, and I did things through them like learned how to use LinkedIn, had headshots done, practiced interviews. I did 4 or 5 practice interviews with them. So I think when it came time to really go and start interviewing, it really helped me feel like I had sharpened my skills. So look for local resources like that that can help you out.
And what was that resource again?
That's called Untapped Potential.
Untapped Potential.
Yes.
And
they're
what's their goal?
Untapped Potential is a local women's owned business here outside of Hartford that offers internships to a variety of companies, just not UTC, but they helped me a lot during the process, and I worked with them through the fall. And then heard about the Re-Empower program through UTC also in the fall, but didn't start with them until March 1st. But the things I did leading up to that really helped as far as practicing the interview and just putting on your professional self and going back out there and talking to people and saying, you know, I want my career back. This is something I want to do. You know, it's an emotional journey that you go through. And so anything you can do along the way to help mitigate that and make the transition smoother will really help.
And do you think, I mean, this seems obvious to me, but I'll just ask it anyway, like, you're going back to a career you were already in. Seems like that would be much easier than trying to launch something new. Would you agree?
Yeah, initially I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure how my skills could be used. But I realized as I tried interviewing for other type of roles, people just consider you too much of a risk. They don't know what they're getting. So going back to something that you feel comfortable in, that you know you can do a good job in, that's not so much of a leap, so much of a learning curve, actually I think is the right kind of first move. It may not be where people need to stay forever, but trying to learn something new as you're going back, as your family's adjusting, as you're getting your skills back, it's a lot to do all at once, honestly.
Yeah, great. So what's the value for United Technologies? This program, is this bridging the gap for finding talent? Because we're finding, that there's less and less talent out there for the more and more jobs that we need to fulfill at a higher level. Is this bridging that gap? What's this all about?
I think the value of the Re-Empower program is that it can help you find talent that you otherwise wouldn't find. You can also find people that bring a really diverse perspective, that have had other experiences over the last few years that help them just change the way other people may look at things. It also, UTC has a lot of longtime employees, especially in certain demographics. So people my age may have been there 15, 20 years and they're used to working it. It's not till you have someone new come in that says, why are we doing it this way? Or could we do this? Or at my last company. And it doesn't even have to be company. It can be the last organization, which for me may have been in the last school when I ran an event. But those skills you gain when you're off doing other things are still valuable. I still know how to organize meetings and put together visits with the customer and do different things because I was doing them just in a different setting.
Excellent. Is this a selling point for United Technologies? Is United Technologies sort of at the forefront of this kind of a program or sort of somewhere in the middle?
For United Technologies, the Re-Empower program offers a lot of opportunity. It makes people see the value that the company sees in the individual. So UTC is, by having this program, UTC is stating like, we value what you did during your off years. We value you as a person to make these decisions about what's best for your family and what's best for you. I think it also sets up a model for younger people and younger women specifically that, hey, if I want to stay home with my babies for a few years, I'm not saying goodbye to my career, that I could always come back. And I think that's really valuable as a company to let people know, whether you're taking care of a sick parent or you have a health crisis in your family or you do want to be home with your kids, that this is an option and it doesn't have to be all or nothing in that moment. You can step away, but there's an opportunity to come back. And I think that's really valuable.
What do you think you've gained? So you're away for 9 years. What have you gained in that time that you didn't have before? A quality that you can bring to the workforce that you maybe didn't have before that 9-year break?
Well, I think just one of the things is maturing. As you take time away, I'm definitely a lot more mature. I don't get so emotionally invested in the work. It's a little easier for me to walk away and separate from it. I think also just the knowing of, well, work is really important, and so is my family, because that's what I've been doing for the last 9 years. And how do I maintain that balance? I think I'm striving a lot more now to maintain that balance than I did when I was working and my kids were small. It was a lot harder for me to do that and to walk away, but now I really try to maintain more of a balance than I used to.
Gotcha. Okay, so I hear that for you personally, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think there's an added value there, right? So there's something in that 9 years that you have developed in yourself that when you come back to be the 787 program manager, that you're able to bring to the table. And maybe it's what you were talking about, right? Sort of that emotional, you don't bring your emotions to the table. This is work and this is, you need to move forward. Is there anything in there where the value of your 9 years away is something that is a commodity that the company needs?
I think the value that you bring after being away is it's a different perspective. You're bringing fresh eyes to your work. You're asking questions that maybe other people just aren't questioning because they haven't been out doing other things. They come in, you get in a routine, you start to do the same thing, day after day. I see it only after being there 5 months, like you get into your routine. But when you come in with fresh eyes and a different perspective, it really changes the work you're doing and in the value you bring. And I think it's really amazing that the company is supportive of bringing different ideas and different perspectives forward. You know, the whole bring your whole self to work. Well, this is my whole self as being a mom for the last 9 years.
Bam, love that. Wow, that was great. All right, now
You guys gonna pay me for this, right? Oh yeah, I already am. Okay.
Everything you're saying.
Yeah, this is really
You
great.
mean you're not getting paid? Hopefully.
So now I'll do the questions that are
Okay.
actually on the piece of paper
Okay.
that I have ignored all this time.
That's okay.
I'll just read through
Can I
them
just
because
say
so
that this
many
shot
are-
looks great. You look fabulous.
Oh, good. Thank
It really
you.
does. What has been your experience in aerospace before being employed by UTC?
So before I came to UTC, I had worked at the Boeing company in Seattle, and then I also worked at Pratt for a number of years. I was a project engineer, and I also worked in sales and marketing there.
Excellent. How did you decide that the Reempower program was the right fit and opportunity for you?
The Reempower program offered the right amount of support and guidance that I felt I needed as I re-entered the workplace. I also felt like the time frame was just the right amount. Other places may have programs that are really short, but I feel like you're just getting your feet wet and then it's over. And others might be too long. I think the 16 weeks is a perfect amount of time to figure out, is this a right fit for me? Is the corporate culture a good fit? And one of the things I really liked is that if it's not exactly right, they were willing to work with me to find out where would I fit in the organization. And I think with the size of UTC, that benefit alone, that if this isn't a great match, they're willing to work with you and find out where you else might be, is really a valuable commodity to offer.
Excellent. So I guess in my mind, I hear a 16-week program. I'm somewhat fearful, right? So I'm just going to work for 16 weeks and then I'm going to go back to being out of work. So talk about the sort of what that's about and how that bridges to employment.
So the whole time through the program, the communication is really consistent that it's a 16-week program, but at the end, we want you to convert. We want you to be a full-time employee. So that's the goal for everyone, is to always have the individuals convert to be a full-time employee.
And what you're saying is if after that 16 weeks, it's not exactly a great fit for you, there might be an opportunity to sort of veer a little bit differently? Is that...
Yeah, I think the messaging has always been that, you know, if you're doing a good job and you've been able to manage and they're seeing in you what they thought they saw in the interview, that they're going to work hard to find the right place for you. I know some of the other cohorts, some of the situations maybe weren't exactly perfect, so they work to find jobs that would better fit their needs. And one of them, it was just a term of flexibility because the commute was really long. So it wasn't the work, but it wasn't working for her family because she was driving over an hour each way. And so they looked to find something that would work, which is right now she's working from home 2 days a week to help it and to keep her on as an employee. And she had been a previous UTC employee that had left with her husband to go to China. So it's kind of an interesting story.
That's great. That's great. All right. What guidance, coaching, and/or mentorship did you receive during the 16 weeks of the program?
During the Reempower program, you're paired up with, let me say that over. During the Reempower program, you're paired up with a peer buddy as well as a technical mentor. These are kind of your two go-to people to help you navigate the waters as you return. And then additional to them, you have your hiring manager who understands where you're coming from and will offer a lot of support and guidance and understanding because they realize you've been out. Additionally, you have the managers of the program who are touching base with you and your HR manager about 4 times through the program. So you get a lot of support from them. You also have your other cohorts who are going through it and can offer their advice of what they're experiencing kind of on a day-to-day basis. And we also had the advantage of having iRelaunch there to help coach and mentor us. And we got to have numerous calls with them where you could ask those questions like, I'm feeling this way. And they'd be like, yeah, that's what everyone says that. Like, that's completely normal, and kind of validate your emotions.
Now, is Relaunch tied in with the Reempower program? How's that?
Yeah, iRelaunch is the consultant that helped create the Reempower program for UTC. So Reempower's UTC specific branding, but iRelaunch is a nationwide organization, and they're helping a lot of companies right now.
Excellent, excellent. What made the transition back to full-time work challenging?
Oh, returning to work full time. I think one of the things that's challenging is the time management. How are you going to get everything done? One of the things I was really worried about was just, could I do it? Like, am I going to be exhausted? Am I going to have the energy to work 50 hours a week and come home and still fix dinner and run children? And it was one of the things I was most nervous about. But I feel like that's been the thing that's been pretty smooth, actually. That hasn't been the thing that's been the hardest. For me, the hardest thing is just the technology and working at the speed that we're expected to work, the quickness of it all. So that's been challenging.
Excellent. Okay, great. What skills, knowledge, and experience do you bring to the workforce?
In my current role of being the 787 program manager, I bring a background of aerospace. I've been a program manager in a different field before. So I'm also a very organized and energetic person, and those were some of the things I was doing during my time off. So there's a lot of who I am at my core that I still bring back with me. I think my history in aerospace and business in general has allowed me to be successful as I return.
What is it that you enjoy about the aerospace industry?
This is kind of hard. I've always just been attracted to the aerospace industry. I think I grew up in Michigan, which is all automotive, and I didn't want to do automotive, so I wanted to find something else. I mean, the fact that you're making planes and you're keeping people safe, to me is just really interesting. I've always enjoyed being part of something so big. Like when you look in the sky and see a plane, you're like, my hardware's up there flying on that. It's really enjoyable. It's also very visual for me. I like hardware. I like seeing parts. My background is metallurgy, so I like seeing why things work the way they do. And I wouldn't enjoy another industry as much that's just like all online. Like I like having physical things to look at and produce.
Excellent. That's great. How did the Re-Empower program prepare you for leadership within UTC?
The Re-Empower program does a really nice job of connecting you with leaders in the organization. It's a program that is well known now, and individuals understand where you're coming from. I think they're willing to mentor you a little bit more than maybe your traditional hire. It's also been really interesting the amount of exposure the program has allowed me to have. I was a little shocked coming in at how quickly I was re-engaged and the level at which I would present information or be involved in meetings. So the Re-Empower program is a really amazing opportunity to highlight your skills and to connect with people in upper management.
Excellent. I just want to do a time check right now. So it is 1:50.
Oh, let me get them going.
Okay. All right. Stop.